Hi everyone, my name is Pablo Robles and I'm a visual journalist and graphic reporter currently working at Bloomberg in Hong Kong. And my talk is named Mapping the Story, and I will show you the use of cartography as the focal point to tell the stories. First of all, let me introduce myself a little bit more. I use code, text, photos, graphic illustrations, maps to present the news. Everything I can use to present the news, I will use it. And currently, as I said, I'm visual journalist at Bloomberg, and previously I was senior graphic editor for S&P, also here in Hong Kong, leading that digital graphic production and multimedia features. Before that, in my home country, I was senior graphic editor for the main newspaper in La Nación, and before that, I was like a visual information designer for a few museums in my country. In this talk, I'm planning to talk about the three types of mapping. Recently, I was doing a lot of maps stories, and the maps are the most important part of the stories. So I was thinking that I will show you three different examples where you can find or use or get inspirations of different uses of mapping as a main part of your story. So let's start with the first one, locator maps. I mean, the reputation of locator map is quite tricky because usually the people ask you to do just a small locator for breaking news. It's something that the news, the people ask just to make beautiful the news or this article. But I will show you a few examples where I use locator maps as the main part of the story. And sometimes locator map can be more than locator map, can tell you more and deeply information. So as I said, I'm living in Hong Kong. I think I have more than 4 years already living here. And I was when all the protests in Hong Kong happened for more than 6 months. So I was talking with my boys at that, with my boss at that time, and say I really want to do a huge piece where I can show the real level of the violence in the protest, because I saw a lot of fake news telling a lot of crazy stories about what happened in one day, another day. So I said, okay, I need to just start creating a database and Google spreadsheet with other reporters. So I used to start in create a database, and also I used to start in creating a huge map of Hong Kong. For this one, I use only streets and buildings only, and because mainly the protest happened in the streets and also some specific government buildings. So I said, okay, let's try to declutter all of the layout, create a huge map we can use as a base to also later every day create a layout or a layer with some layout and then some information like the protest location, the mobilization of the protest, if there is tear gas, if there is clashes, all of stuff. So for almost 3 months, I just every day fill and create a new layer in Illustrator after we just exported for QGIS from QGIS. So I just created a layer for every day, and then I just after 3 months we say, okay, we need to just put a limit or a deadline, and let's do it with 100 days. And after that, I just create a lot of maps. Sometimes when you try to explain what's happening in a specific day, you need to find if there is a better way to show it. Maybe can be use a photo, or maybe you can use a map, or maybe you can use both. So that will be like editorial decision to show, okay, for this one, we don't need a map because we don't have any complex movements, or they just stay there and that's it. And so for this one, I did a lot of maps. You can see it there. Even I did maps for subway. You can see the top right. And if you check all of this, sometimes I have to do like 3 different versions of maps. So that was a good experience. And sometimes if you want to tell the story about that specific day, the only way is to show in a map. The good thing is here in Hong Kong, the people actually likes maps. You can see a lot of people walking around using Google Maps, so they are used to maps. So I was thinking, yeah, it's the only way. We have a lot of photos, we have a lot of maps, that will be the best approach for this story. So yeah, this is the look and feel, the final result. So I use a lot of photos and I will mix it with some mapping. And also we have this on the top, this bar that show you in which men you are. And then at the bottom, we have this level of violence. That was created by analysis for all reporters on site, me on site, and sometimes all the data that we find by the police reports. So also I have to create, I want to create also a print graphic. For this one, I just want a huge map. So why I cannot just do that double spread graphic. So I asked my boss at the time, and SMP, if I can do that, and he said, let's do it. So I just started using the same QGIS base map, and then with the Illustrator file, with all the layers, with all the data, all the points, all the mobilization, the protest, clashes, tear gas. So I just started pointed out it, and then I just realized you separate the data by months, and you can actually feel the progression of the protest. So here you can see the first month, the second month, and then the third month, and a little bit more. And you can actually see that this works as a proportional map. This is the final result. As you can see, we use the same main or the base map, and then I just put a lot of information, but the sense is the same. And this was also featured in the latest book. I'm so happy about it. And then afterwards, I have to do kind of similar story for Bloomberg. So we initially we were reached out by visual team because they have a lot of photos of Hong Kong, the before and after, and specifically in some buildings, shops, banks, and yeah, the main idea from them is to show the real afterwards of the protest and the new law. So for this one, again, I just create a huge map of Hong Kong. For this one, we have more resources, more data providers. So this is the main QGIS file that you can see. And now this time we have real data for the protest. And the data was created by Hong Kong University. And they have a lot of crazy information inside of the shape files. So if you remember in the previous project, I did it all manually by myself and one coworker that helped me out. And then this one, we have the real shape file with all the locations, mobilization, and all the stuff. So for this one, I was thinking, initially I was thinking to do something interactive, and you can scroll, they will pop up some images when you scroll down. But I thought that was so difficult for the user to get so many information, so many labels. So I just realized that would be nice to crop Hong Kong in 3 parts. So this is the result. The look and feel of this map is inspired by Cyberpunk, the video game. Actually, I recommend you, if you really like maps, just take a look. A lot of maps created for games. They're quite awesome. So yeah, you can see on the left side, we have this area is next to the border in China, mainland China. And then we have in the center, this is Kowloon area, and this Hong Kong Island. For this one, now we have data for protest location, protest mobilization, tear gas firing during the protest, and also where the photo was taken. I think this is quite interesting because even we find the angle of the photo, so we put it in the map as well. This is like main feature map, but also is kind of locator maps. So this is important because this is quite similar to the other project that I did, but this one is more, we have more data and the map show you more than before the other example, the previous example. So here is more or less the final result. We put these before and after photos, and then we put locators inside of the photos, and we have these maps, and also we have this top header that show you in which area you are, before and after photos, some comments, and sometimes we highlight the specific elements where the architecture changed because the process of the new law. So it's a quite it's the same topic as the previous project, different mediums, but it's the same sense. Then we have interactive maps. I'm not a fan of interactive maps, to be honest, but I find them very useful. For example, if you have these hurricane trackers, or you have these earthquake trackers, or if you have, I don't know, fires tracker, it's good to have the full page, like you can see on the left side. You can have this full page interactive maps when you can highlight, disable, enable data. I think this is huge. Another example will be trying to integrate the interactive map with the layout, like you can see in the center. This is an example of Costa Rica map. And then we have like this normal graphic on the right side that is interacting. We have data and it's just part of the layout. So I will show you one example where I made what we did with a coworker in London about one interactive map about the train. So the story of this map is about the hero is asked travelers to ditch plane for night trains. Again, for this one, I create this huge map of Europe with all the buildings, all the streets. And we create the Alps with Blender, and then we merged all of them. Why I did it in QGIS, why I did it so big, actually my computer get freeze 5 times already. So it was like a painful process, but in this I need to do like a high resolution images for some specific cities like Rome, or I don't know, like part of Germany, because our plan of this interactive map will be zoom in and zoom out areas. And also we need to compare with actual airports, because the plan of the project is to compare airplanes versus trains, and why trains are better than planes, because planes produce a lot of pollution. So the main in the story will be create a huge map, different crops, different resolutions, different scales, so we can just zoom in or zoom out during the process. So this is more or less the result. You can see in the left side, we have this pollution or emissions data. And then we have the Alps as well on the right side. It's created by Blender. And then we have these points with the dash line that actually are airports. And then you can see in the center, this is tie line. This is the actual path for the camera when you scroll. And I will explain you later. So this is the final result. We have all the airports data there, like these lines. Then we have all the trains. We have specific data, annotations. There you can see the emissions data as well, high-speed trains in the future high-speed trains. And you can see we are zooming in, zoom out in some areas. Obviously, if you look at on a bigger screen, will be better because the resolution is good. And for this one, this is why we're using this line in the middle, because for this one we were using Canvas. Actually, this is the actual Illustrator file. So you can see different crops because we have different resolutions. So if you zoom in, we will show a good resolution of these cities. And that line that cross almost all the file, and this is the SVG path. So the main idea of the project is that in the viewport, the canvas will follow that path, and we can just trigger and say, okay, zoom in, zoom out in specific areas. And yeah, so this is one file. And the good thing about this is that this file you need only one file and can be used for mobile and iPad. So it's a good use, I recommend. And then in interactive maps examples, I have this one. This is my first project for Bloomberg, and it's related with the tree loss at the deforestation. So we use starting collecting data of tree loss from Google Earth Engine. A coworker in New York helped me out with that. And I just analyze all the data in QGIS by year. But I was doing a lot of iterations with color, but I just realized, okay, I just want to do it black and white, because there is more visual impact if you, in this case, if you use black and white. Because even I was trying to put fires in on top of the map and everything, but I thought that was too much. And the good thing is just to see the deforestation and actually the tree loss. And there is nothing else in that map that trees and tree loss. And then I did the same for Malaysia. That actually is more shocking, because you see Malaysia is almost, the tree is almost done. I'm pretty sure that this is because the plantations, all of this agriculture. So for this one, there is a main road in Amazonia where it's triggering a lot of deforestation, and the plan of the government is to put this highway in the middle of the Amazonia, and obviously will be triggering more urbanization, more deforestation. So I was, okay, I just want to focus in that area. So this is one example of you can do something interactive in some areas, a specific area of your map. Also, I mean, when I talk about interactive, I can say that nowadays I think it's better to use scroll to trigger things instead of clicking things, because the people don't click anything. You need to force them to click because they just want to scroll. So this is why now scrollytelling is like a trend. It's better than other kind of interactions. So for this one, I was using that technique. So you can see here, well, we have this map, and then we have something, but I was just doing that crop. And when you scroll down, we will see different GIFs showing the tree loss during all the years in that specific crop, and also related with this highway that I was talking about. So yeah, this is a big crop of the Amazonian map. It's triggered by a scroll. The people just have to scroll and get the information. And similar for mobile and similar to the previous project. And also there is another example of interactive maps. This is a cartogram that I did for the past Olympics. So no need to be like this beautiful relief map with texture maps. Can be like a simple cartogram with words, and actually works as a world map. This is more abstract, but give you a lot of opportunities. And also the size of the circle means the total of meters. Then this is my favorite kind of technique of use of mapping. So I recommend, well, I personally like to play a lot with these weird shapes that map provides. So for this one, I really like to crop areas, as you can see in the previous project that I showed. So I really like to crop big maps and put it so that will give the user a more dynamic reading. So I will show you a few examples of the projects that I use this technique, and I still like it more than the other techniques. So I will show you a few examples. This one. This is I think it's one of the last graphic that I did for SMP. This is related with the Australian fires. Pretty sure you really know about this. There is a lot of graphic about this, the flume, the contamination, the pollution. So this one, a lot of people use the whole Australian map to tell the story. But for this one, I want to focus in that crop. So initially I was saying, okay, I will use that crop, I will zoom in, and the rest need to flow with that. So when I started the layout, I said, oh, this was a breaking news. So I just started using that area. I pull all the data there and say, okay, now I need to figure out how to put the rest of the data. And I think it's good. There is a perfect example if you can use crop some areas and put a small locator, that actually the small locator in this case works and put a lot more information. So yeah, I mean, this is a good example, and that when you actually can use the map as a main part of the story. And then I create another one like 2 years ago, again for SMP. And this is about the permafrost, how the permafrost is a ticking time bomb. I can imagine that you already know a lot of permafrost, a lot of climate change, all of this stuff because it's in the news lately. So I just, this is the main QGIS file. You can see the layers there, the interface of QGIS. And yeah, I mean, for this one, I use this projection that can be easy to show this area. And then this is the final result. I think one thing that I want to point is this is important to know or really ask a real cartographers about the better projection for your maps. I think this is tricky. I'm still learning. Disclaimer, I'm not a cartographer. I don't pretend to be a cartographer. I'm just really enjoy doing maps. But sometimes I need to ask a real cartographers what will be the best projection because this can be very, very tricky for your project. So yeah, this is a good example of that. So, and the same, I was using the same main file, and then I just adapt the rest of the layout to be the secondary, and the map will be the first and the most important of the story. And then we have a few exercise, a few examples of projects when I use it for digital. This is for Bloomberg. This is when I did it with one coworker in New York. Basically, it's about how to reconnect Black communities torn apart by highways. And for this one, we use census data at that time. And also we use aerial photos with satellite data. And basically, you can see the old building that was just covered by highways. For this one, we did a lot of kind of locator maps. And also we did this main feature in the beginning. And you can see each dot is around 20 people. Yeah, and you can see the highways trying to be disruptive with this circle locator, and you actually see there is a lot of Black communities, and the little highways put it on top of them. There's an example of data, satellite data, aerial photo, and some elements when you can see before and after how the highways just cover the old buildings. And also we put this small locator on the right side. This was a quick story, and I did a full member with my coworker. And that's the last one. This is the Unfreezing the Everest economy. This is not a real map, but I will explain you why. So this is like the campsites for the one expedition to the Everest. So yeah, sometimes you don't need to put these beautiful maps. So actually, you can create these abstract maps or diagrams of the specific area of the city, of mountain. I mean, you know, Everest is beautiful to do incredible maps. For this one, the story itself is about how the Sherpa was struggling with the virus and how many people do you need to get to the top of the Everest. And the people doesn't know how many people they have to hire and how many Sherpas are just doing almost everything for you if you want to go to the top of the Everest. So I was initially thinking, okay, I can do a beautiful map of Everest. I can do a lot of crazy mapping stuff, but suddenly I said, no, let's do something like more than supply chain, but actually this location of every campsite was created using a drone footage and a satellite data and some and like satellite photo where you can actually see the real location. and with a drone footage as well, the location for every campsite. So this is a good example that actually you can do also. It's similar to the cartogram that I showed before. You can do this crazy mapping diagrams as well and no need to put the scale. So this is another example when you can use the main feature map, kind of map, and use it as one of the main parts of the story. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you understand me well, because I know it's kind of tricky to understand me. You can check more work at my portfolio. You can see there. Also, I invite you to check the Bloomberg Graphics page. And also, recently, I just started a monthly newsletter where I just talk about inspiration, tricks, and other visual journalist project. Tricks or something about cartography, mapping, tools, even tricks, even projects that I'm working on. Yeah, you can feel free to check it out, and even you can read it, the previous editions without being a subscriber. So just go take a look, and also you can follow me in Twitter. Feel free to reach me out if you have any questions, any comments, any feedback. I'm happy to hear it. And gracias.